All right, welcome back, Coach.
Welcome back, guys. We are midway through the year. We are midway through the month. It is June 16th, 2022. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast. This is episode 591.
Yeah, well, listen, I was just thinking when that music comes on, I always think about...
Well, there is.
Oh, that is.
Are we done? Yeah.
No, I was just thinking about that music.
We're cutting it real short today. 591. Yes, it is. 591.
I was wondering if we should have some kind of voiceover, big voiceover during that music. Here it is, 591.
Yeah, that would be way too advanced for us. Some people don't listen to us because we're advanced.
I know.
People listen to us because... Yeah, people listen to us because we're mediocre. And for those of you tuning in today, we appreciate your time. It's first time tuning in. Welcome. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Your time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts like we will today. We do race recaps. Well, we also do a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through as coaches and athletes ourselves, but also human beings on this planet. We'll oftentimes touch on a lot of just stuff, life stuff, what we're all going through in life, because that is the, triathlon is the common denominator that we the sport that we're all passionate about it into, but also we're also kind of going through some of the same stuff. It might not be exactly the same, but it's all stress. We all have our own obstacles and things to kind of overcome and get through. And a lot of times, we will dive into that area because that is a huge thing that we're passionate about is working with our athletes as the whole person, not just the athlete themselves. So we'll talk a lot about that. We'll also use our athletes that we work with. We work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level athletes looking at their very first sprint or even 5K, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to Kona, and everyone in between. We work with most of our athletes in the U.S., but we work with quite a few athletes across the pond. And all over the world. So we'll use the feedback loop we have with them and emails, texts, training peaks, and phone calls to kind of drive the topic and discussion today. We do a great job of giving us a good vibe of kind of what everyone else is going on, or what's going on in the sport itself and what we're all kind of going through, because everyone, like we said, everyone is different, but we all kind of go through the same things. We'll also frequently go into our Facebook group, which you can search and be a part of. It's Crushing Iron Group on Facebook. Answer that one simple question. We'll let you right in. Awesome community, great resource. Again, there's a lot of experienced athletes in there and a lot of beginners. So don't feel like you're don't feel too scared or timid to ask a question. Because you're just going to keep on questioning because you're not going to know the answer. And there's a lot of great people in there willing to give you their advice. Been around the block quite a few times. And again, same kind of levels that we work with our athletes, all over from beginners to even Ironman age group champions. So participate. Don't be a lurker, but participate and be a good solid member of our a great community. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads. We do have an agenda, and it's a very important one, and that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Very nicely done. I was listening to a podcast last night. You heard of a guy named Tom Billio. He started Quest Bars. He's got this he's pretty good, man, actually. He has a lot of really interesting interviews on there, and he was talking to some guy, but he was talking about how when he was in Quest Nutrition, he said he was always trying to act like he knew what was going on with the biology and, like just to kind of be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But he really said he didn't understand it. And he got to a point finally where he's like, you know what, I'm just going to admit I'm dumb and start asking questions. And he said, that's what opened the door for me to learn. And I thought that was just a really interesting thing because I think we all have a tendency to do that. It's like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. You have no idea, but it's important. Like I just brought that up because you were asking about, they're saying there's no dumb questions in there. And I think that's what's interesting about our group is that it is a friendly fireplace, for like asking dumb questions.
Friendly fire. I like that.
It's like, yeah, anybody, they just know, right? People are just cool about it and they remember sort of where they're from or where they came from. And that's the way I always look at coaching and stuff is that, I've been doing it for 10 years, racing and everything like that, but it's easy to remember for me how ridiculous I was in the beginning and how many questions I had. So there is no dumb questions, really.
It is a great point in that listen, the sport itself is so complicated, and there's so many different messages you can get from so many different quote unquote experts or articles or publications or social media, YouTube. It honestly makes the sport so much harder, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the core things that you and I have always tried to do our best with, at least this podcast, is not to dumb it down, but to just try to at least not make it so damn complicated, because it honestly really isn't. It's just you take a sport where you've got swimming, cycling, and running, and then you put them all together, you do them in a row, and you can't at the same time tackle each individual sport like you are a single sport swimmer or a single sport cyclist or a single sport runner. Like you can't do the same mileage, if you're training for a 70.3 or a half marathon that you normally would be doing for probably, an open full marathon, right? So you can't do all that. Then it's all nutrition, right? Then you got the gear, then you got races and logistics. So you take all that in an already complicated sport, and now, especially over like the last 5 or 6 years, maybe probably even 10. I keep saying 5 or 6, but we keep getting older, and it's just time is flying by. Is now there's so much opportunity that you can just kind of click from your phone. Like back in the day, I'm gonna age myself here. All the information I got was from Triathlete magazine. That was it. Like that, I would got it once a month, and you read it, and then you kind of did your own thing. Like you would, way back in the day when Endurance Nation was big, you hopped in there and just kind of learned a lot. And even in the last 20 years, the sport is always evolving. Things are always evolving. We keep adding things to it to, honestly, I think, overcomplicate it and just kind of add in more chaos to something that really doesn't need anything else. It's endurance sports to me are so pure in that if you just leave them alone, like sports like swimming, it's relatively unchanged. Right. Same with running, besides the carbon plated shoes that have changed things, it's very pure. There's not much extra you can add to it. Even if you want to have wear your heart rate strap and have your fancy watch and have your form goggles with pace display. You don't see Olympians and collegiate swimmers wearing that stuff. They don't wear a watch. They just work off the clock and they swim. They got the same equipment they've always had. Same thing goes for running. The top runners in the world, marathoners, half marathoners, they don't run by power. Most of them don't even run by heart rate or run by pace. They run by feel. But yet triathletes, we're different. We are special. What we need is more tech and more gadgets to make things even more complicated, and already a super complicated sport. Plus we need 78,000 different YouTube channels, and we there's a lot. We have a lot of coaches, a lot of podcasts. Ours is one of them. It's just super complicated, and I think what it does is makes things really not just confusing, but also frustrating for athletes. And that's just one of those things where, I think one of the biggest compliments we get is that, A, it sounds like two guys having a discussion, but B, we don't know everything either. Even as a guy who's been coaching in the sport for as long as I have, the sport is still evolving. You're still trying to figure things out. And if you if you act like you know everything, then you know nothing, right? Because you're done learning, you're done educating, you're done trying to figure things out. There's always something else to learn. But at the same time, when you get into the sport and you're just kind of learning to figure things out, you don't just go, in your Amazon shopping cart and spend 6 hours a day on slow twitch and buy everything that you possibly can and overcomplicate it. You just kind of move through things slowly and surely and learn about things and progress, at a moderate rate. And if we can do our best to kind of dumb down the things that we do, like in our How to Not Suck at Swimming series, that's what we're here to do, is really kind of simplify things and just kind of give you that. It's probably not attractive. It's probably why we don't have as many sponsor and ad requests, because we're not going to shill a different topic every other episode and say that the greatest way to improve is to wear these new goggles or to race with this helmet or to run by power and do this. It's like, listen, you can just keep it simple, right? And keep it simple and keep things down to its core, which is effort, reasonable intensity, consistency, and then rest. And that's pretty much it. And that's what we aim to do. I think today we're going to touch on a little bit of swimming, I believe, right?
Yeah, but before you get into that, I just want to say, I mean, there are a million different things, and if you look at something like the stock market or something, I mean, the basic principle of that is buy low and sell high, And I think there's still a lot of that in triathlon, but there's even in the markets, there's so many different distractions and formulas and algorithms and things like that that people kind of get their heads in, and then they're losing their ass anyway because they can't figure it out. But the basics are one of those things that I always try to, go back to and things like that. You always hear, like a really good example for me is, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, but somebody that may not have trained up as much as they should have, maybe for a 70.3, or, they just didn't do a lot of intense work or anything like that. And, got in some mileage, they're sort of in the ballpark, and then they go out and then they're cramping on the bike maybe, or on the run for sure. Right. They start cramping up and they're like, yeah, I got to do a salt test or sweat test and all this kind of stuff and everything. I'm like, dude, you just didn't work hard enough. And then you went out and worked harder than you're used to, and that's probably why you were cramping. You know what I mean? To me, those are little things that I find really interesting because there are so many kind of hacky things out there. Not that sweat test is a hack. I think that's a great thing because obviously people cramp when they are in shape too, and maybe that's the reasoning. But a lot of times, I just think it comes down to basics. Are you doing the work before the race, and then the equivalent work that matters when you race and stuff like that. So,
no, I totally agree, and it's kind of funny, like listening to what you said about it's about going backwards, right? Instead of like looking forwards, we always try to like look for something new when there's a problem that arises or exists, and it's we don't go backwards to figure out things, where we went right and how we can keep doing that. But if something goes wrong, we always look to like something very different in the future. And I think we do because most athletes, hopefully are in the sport for a long period of time, and you can just kind of forget what really worked and how simplistic it was because whether we like it or not, we get distracted. Hell, we get distracted on this podcast. I mean, we were talking about swimming and we're already almost 20 minutes in. We haven't even touched on it yet, but you just kind of go with the flow. But because there's, whether you believe it or not, we always kind of get creeped out where, even on this podcast, I might say, new Apple Watch. Well, the next time I open up my phone, guess what I'm going to see an ad for? An Apple Watch, right? Mm-hmm. Because no matter what, even if you're not trying to be distracted, and I think you and I had this conversation about, advertising and marketing and commercials, like, do they really work? And you're like, that's the great question. Do they really have an impact of what you purchase when you purchase it? Are they really making you buy, why does Coca-Cola have, commercials? Everybody likes Coca-Cola, but you have pulsing where you see the same ad over and over and over and over again. And while you might not buy it that very second, 3 months later, in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I'm definitely going to grab this brand of, paper towels. Whether you realize it or not, it's because you saw the same commercial for it 9,000 times, on whatever channel you were watching for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And so I think whether we get distracted, so I think it's common, right? I think I do it, you do it, we all do it, whether we believe it or want to say it or not. And sometimes it's not, being, blatantly distracted, you're just not focusing on purpose. Sometimes you just kind of forget to go back to what worked, right? And I think in the craziest times in life, myself, and life isn't crazy right now, but I definitely need some centering, right? In trying to find a flow and a routine, instead of looking for something new. What I've been doing is I've gone way back to what I knew worked in another period of my life, which was, chaotic, and what worked to kind of help stabilize me. And I've done that this week, and I've been super successful. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, I kind of went back and just looked at the wheel itself and tried to keep it in its most simplistic form, which is, just one big circle, right? Made a rocket, roll down a hill, and it works. Sometimes we just need that, right? It's because that's a great way for us to keep momentum, is to keep things simple to do, because we always forget what worked and how we got there, because we get to a certain place and we think that once we've gotten there, we need to do something different, when distraction is usually what leads you down the wrong path. I don't know if you were telling me this or somebody else was telling me, was that, when there was a famous, businessman one day, and he's not one day, but he said, I never wanted to be in the top 10, richest or most powerful companies or most successful businesses in the world, because you don't ever see the same ones year after year. Because what usually happens is if you got there, you took too many risks to get there, to get to the top. You made bad decisions. You did certain things. What I always kind of wanted to be was somewhere in the top 50. Because if I always stay in the top 50 and I'm there for 20 or 30 or 40 years, then I know I'm doing something right. And I'm not taking risks and I'm being smart and I'm being cautious, and I'm making the right moves. I'm hurrying slowly, I'm growing organically, with a slow burn, whatever you can call it, and I'm not taking those huge risks that may pay off for a year, but they're not going to pay off for 10. And you see that a lot of times, and I think athletes do the same. They go all in, and they change something up really, really quick, and they might see an immediate return on investment, right? And they think that that's what's going to stick for forever. But just because it happens once, right, or lightning strikes, lightning strike more than once, it doesn't mean it's going to happen for a long period of time, or, and most importantly, that it's going to be sustainable.
Yeah. It's hard to be sustainable. It's hard to keep coming back every year and getting better and better and stuff like that. And especially when you kind of lose focus on your principles and things like that. And I was talking to another athlete about it. He was, he raced Chat 70.3 and he got done with the race, and he had that week later, he was having some neck issues, and it felt pretty bad, he said. And then he was thinking I was like, well, it's probably because we don't sight enough and we don't ride aero enough on the roads and all that kind of stuff. And your neck's not used to it and stuff like that. So he told me he got a new bike fit and he made it more comfortable. He said it was way too aggressive. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, man. So like you can go get a bike fit and get that really nice aggressive position, but most of us aren't ready for that. And I mean, as I get older, that's like the least I want. I think I was telling you, I was debating when I thought I was doing Chat 70.3, going back to my old bike because it was more comfortable. But even though I had the new carbon track and it was all dialed in and it was fast and everything like that, but it's just so, the aggressiveness of it, not only was it in position, but it's just a harder bike. You feel everything a little bit more, at least I did. And I was like, man, I can tell, yeah, this is like a sports, optimized kind of bike, but it didn't feel comfortable for me. So I was having a dilemma about that, and I still am. Actually, I'm thinking about getting a little less aggressive with it, because it's just not like, it doesn't lend to me wanting to ride it a lot, and it's just not comfortable. And I don't know how you've talked about this before, like in running form and things like that. It's just like, get better at your form and don't always try to like really change it drastically, because it's just not easy when you get older, to kind of reinvent the wheel and change your whole run stride and do all these kind of things just because you think it'll make you faster. And I think you always like talk about Lionel, and he just runs, man. He's just stronger at what he does. And that's the thing I've been thinking about as I kind of contemplate Wisconsin, right? Is what's the thing about that course that stands out that everybody thinks about? Is probably the bike, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
how it used to be the most wonderful mass start swim in North America.
Exactly. So I haven't been riding near enough, like in theory, to race that thing, but in my mind, before I make that decision, I'm more interested in getting my swim going and feeling comfortable with it, because I think not just with it being hot and everything like that too, it's just, and I always kind of feel like swimming is the best overall thing for me as far as how I feel and fitness and things like that. So I've been working on that because I want to get that up, and I just feels like the right time to just work a little harder on my swim. And we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, but and you said something about really what I thought was great was keep it balanced in what we're doing right now, because and I'll let you talk about this as far as how to run and what that means right now. Like keeping your workouts in all three sports balanced can mean different things at different times of the year. And I feel like that's sort of what's happening right now.
It's happening, and we touched on it earlier this week when we talked about how hot it is, right? And it just seems to be getting hotter. Like I went up from my run this morning, and I just didn't check the weather. I was frankly just ready to get out of the damn house, and so I didn't check the weather. I just got my clothes on, put Waffles or Puppy up, and just said, hey, I'm heading out. And I probably made it a half mile, and I thought to myself, things have gotten worse. Not so much with my pace, but just with, I could just tell immediately that it was like running in, just sludge. And I got back to and I could tell, like, I mean, went on an easy 30-minute run. I was able to keep my heart rate low, but there was a period of time like where the last 10 minutes I was going up this like slow incline, and I was like, dude, if you really want to keep your heart rate down and like, where you want it to be for these easy runs, you're about to have to walk to do it. That's how nasty it was. And I got back to the house and I saw 73 dew point. I was like, yep, that sounds about right. That feels about right. It's oppressive. And you and I talked about this earlier, before we went on the air. And I was like, right now, listen, forcing something or trying to do something new is not what you want to do, right? You want to make things as simple as possible, because we all do this, right? When things get really, really, really difficult, we try to do something brand new, because, dude, brand new, that's got to be the answer. Instead of looking back and thinking, all right, what have I done in the past that's worked in another chaotic time in my life? And this is a period of time where every year people go out and try to set new records in June and July when they're not acclimated to the heat and they don't understand the effects of heat, dew point, humidity, temperature on their body and on their sessions. And they go out and they do these runs. They do all their runs, outside, but they try to actually just blow their doors off on all these runs. And they end up trying to figure out, why can't I recover? Why are my rides and my swim sucking? Right now is a great time to focus on swimming, focus on cycling. And if you can do them inside, like, Monday through Friday, do them inside and hammer them out. Like, our swims are hard in general, harder than I would say probably 99.9% of most athletes and how they train and swim, unless they swim in like, high school or college or they're professional. And we swim really, really, really hard because swimming transfers over to cycling and running. So while you might not be able to head out and do these, really hard, even like, upper tempo threshold repeat type runs outside, nor should you, if you can hop on the treadmill, do them on a treadmill like we discussed earlier this week. But right now is a great time to maybe up the intensity a little bit, depending on where you are in your, in your progression towards your race. And if you can swim inside, right? Because there's a point in which you're going to get negative returns. And we mentioned this again, like kind of in a roundabout way, talking about we have our camp coming up next week, and the forecast for Wednesday, it starts Wednesday. The forecast currently is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It is 100 degrees or hotter. It's going to be abysmal. It's going to be oppressive. It's going to be just flat out hot and nasty. And as we kind of like think about the things and think about what we need to do and how we need to be smart, this isn't a period of time where it's you need to show off and see how tough you are, right? And you don't get extra credit for being stupid. And I think sometimes people spell tough stupid because they think that's like going to show someone something. And as I was kind of going through, what I might say on, in kind of the opening remarks that we do at camp on Wednesday night, and I was frankly, I'll say it now, is you're not going to impress me by being tough. You're not going to impress me by going harder or doing an extra interval or passing an extra person. How you're going to impress me is by being patient and being smart and taking care of your body.
Yeah.
That is like a lost like that. And that, listen, that is just a normal day-to-day life thing that we have come to just totally lose sight of, is taking care of ourselves, limiting stress, not adding stress, right? And doing all these things as we just continue to add more and add more and add more. And then we think we're doing is minimizing stress, but really continuing to add stress. And, being tougher, working longer hours, doing things that are more difficult. Sometimes all you're doing is wreaking havoc on your body and on your system. And this time of year, don't go outside and try to blow your system into smithereens. Find ways that are intelligent, that are smart, that are going to continue to pay off. And like we said, run easy outside. Maybe do your long ride outside during the week, or some of your zone 1, zone 2 rides. Great to do outside. And if you want to do a swim outside a week, do a swim. But if the point is to get better, right? And this is kind of very similar to what we touch on a lot when people try to acclimate to the heat for these early season races in March and April. They do them inside. They hop on the trainer. We don't ever say, do your high intensity, do your threshold sessions on your trainer with no fan. No, because listen, guys, the point is to get faster, right? If you want to get faster, you have to go harder, increase intensity, increase it by duration, and manipulate those two. Sometimes it's going from 100% effort on a shorter interval, to 110%, or sometimes it's keeping it 100% and making that shorter interval longer. Like that. That's a great debate always for coaches when you're prescribing and programming, especially for cycling and running workouts, is do you increase intensity and keep the duration the same, or do you keep the intensity same and increase the duration, right? Because they're two very different things. You get two, somewhat different results based on where you are and what you're training for. So in order to do that, you have to do it intelligently. So you want to be able to raise intensity or do it longer. Well, you can't do that with no fan, right? Let's say you're holding, you one day you hop on your trainer and you're doing 200 watts and, you got your thermostat set on 68 and you got your fan blowing in you. Dude, that's cool and crisp. Like you can easily put out 200 watts if that's your normal thing. And it might even feel easier. Well, the next day you try to do it, right? And your recovery is pretty simple. And you feel great the rest of the day. The next day you do it, you crank your, you're trying to be like that guy. I'm gonna heat prep, man. I'm gonna heat prep. I sent on the Instagram post with my sweatshirt on with no fan. Here I am, hashtag sweating bullets. Power 160, RPE 9, recovery time 72 hours. What did you just gain? One new follower. Okay, you didn't increase your fitness, and you probably didn't even heat acclimate because you're not going to do it tomorrow. But these are the decisions that people make all the time, right? Instead of kind of going with like the logical common sense route is like, do I have any business running these outside right now? No. Do I have any business doing hill repeats on my bike right now when it's 75 dew point? And basically every piece of literature you can read says, hey buddy, you might want to take that back inside, right? Because in order to get better, you have to go faster, create more power, and push yourself more. You don't only do that, but you can do that really best in optimal conditions, right? And like we posted, or I posted a chart on dew point in our closed group, kind of follow up from last week. And as I was still trying to like gather enough oxygen after my run today to feel like I could actually produce, work like a human being today, it said like, optimal race conditions was like 50 dew point and less, right? So that's all. If you can perform your best, then that's also when you can, work out at your best, right? And produce the best numbers that are going to make your body, right? Because we stress our body. That's how you get it to become faster and fitter, more efficient in whatever you're trying to accomplish. In order to do that, you have to have pretty good conditions. So pick and choose, right? If you want to get heat acclimated, take all your runs outside, but make them super short, like 30, 35 minutes or less, and make them super easy. Don't go try to increase your speed outside on the track when it's 110 degrees. Okay, all you're going to do is be digging yourself up. Take it inside, maybe up the intensity, elongate a little bit, but they all cross over, right? And that's again, as complicated as a sport can be, that's also its saving grace, right? Is that you can still get faster and fitter, even on one sport. But especially if you if you only have one removed, like you're not going to go outside and do intensity in the run. If you can still swim hard and run hard, you're getting so much anaerobic work. It crosses over, right? And as soon as you get adapted to the heat, things come down. You're going to go rip it in a race, but only if you're responsible, only if you continue to train with common sense, and you're able to kind of take the ego and the expectation out of what you want versus what your body and your mind really need.
Mm-hmm. As you're saying that, I was thinking about the triathletes' sort of career cycle and how when I was, younger, I guess, but I was just sort of new in the sport, and I had a lot more, where they say piss and vinegar in me about it and everything. And I kind of got used to, I've always kind of been a heat trainer. So what you're saying, I agree with. It's just that there was a time when I felt like I don't know, you're getting ready maybe for your first race or something like that, and you're just going out and you're like putting yourself through the stress ringer, and it's just all part of the game, and you still got enough emotional energy to keep pushing and things like that. And I think in some ways, you get used to it, but it takes a little time, right? It's like when the heat just hits so hard right away like this, for a lot of people, it's sort of like, going out and doing hill repeats when you haven't done a hill yet or something like that. It's a whole different thing. And most people, can't do it or won't do it, or they'll get crushed by doing it. But there's certain times in our careers when we have a little more of that vigor. And I just think that, I don't know, I'm still one of these guys that still believes there's a little bit of a pandemic hangover with a lot of athletes, because they basically the year was kind of jacked, and then the next year was a little bit jacked, and maybe we weren't, I just feel like there's a big sort of subtle stress load that's just kind of starting to, and plus there's a lot going on. And I think people, you know what I mean? It's like triathlon was, for me, and it still is because obviously it's our business, but for me, I had a one-track mind, man. It was all about triathlon. And then all of a sudden it's kind of got ripped away a little bit and everything like that. And I think people are having a hard time, and I'm not saying like massively hard time, but just enough to kind of create this like, I don't know, slowness to go back in all the way or something, a little hedging or something like that. But this is just sort of a big picture philosophy that I have right now. But at least for me, it was like, I just never trained like I used to train those 2 years. You know what I mean? And I kind of lost a little bit of that. So like when you come back in, it's like, hey, I'm going to go for it this year. And you don't have the same mentality. I just think it's a little harder, you know? And this, because of the heat, man, it's here every year. I mean, I that's one of those things with me is like, wow, it's so hot, man. Well, it's, you know, every year it kind of does the same thing, you know, but we have to just kind of be mindful of it and approach it in a smart way, because towards the end of this month, if you run slow and run smart and everything, you're going to be more adapted and you're going to be able to breathe better and probably just be generally in better shape. And I think that matters a lot too. That's my point, I think, is that if the better shape you are, the more you can handle heat and cold or whatever you want to, you know, put in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, remember, we're trying to just be more fit, right? And the fitter you are, the more resilient you are. And, you know, and you can do things like, and it's simple translation, right? Like you go and you take the overweight person down the street who might be, you know, super overweight. They go out and do 10 minutes of yard work and they're destroyed. They're destroyed, right? They are sweating bullets. They're heavy breathing. They have to stop every 2 seconds. Then you see, you know, Billy Sue next door who's out there for, you know, 5 hours crushing it. That's fitness. And I think we get lost in how we define what fitness is. That's fitness, right? And that's like the level that every athlete should, you know, kind of strive for, is just be overall healthy and fit. And I totally agree. It's a message we've been sending our own athletes for the last year, is that people are still kind of, listen, in my opinion, we are still in the wake phase of the pandemic. You know, life is back to normal. You know, everybody thought that was, you know, we're gonna have this new normal and this is how things were gonna be for the next 5 years. And no, it's honestly, to me, it's felt more demanding. Like once we kind of things kind of got back to normal, races are happening, everybody's going back to the office. I think people are in shell shock. Like oh shit, I didn't plan on kids going back to school and me traveling and life going back and more demanding, and maybe I committed to things I should have committed to when life was one way because I was gonna be the same. We're still in the wake phase, right? We're still feeling the ripple effect of that. Like I was listening to a podcast earlier this week about it was an economic podcast about the real estate and recession and stuff. And they're like, you really they don't tell you you've been in a recession until like 18 months after it even started.
Yep. Because
that's how long it takes to like compile all the data, even if you might think it's happening. So you really get in the wake of it and it already happened. And I think a lot of athletes are dealing with that. Like they're dealing with a very turbulent, right, and you know, volatile last 3 years. You know, it seems like it was forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago, right? That we were hedging our bets and not sure. And so I still think people have this underlying, I don't want to call it fear, but I want to say it's hesitation.
Yeah, it's hedging, right? I think.
Yeah, people, you're hedging their bet. I don't want to risk. It's like when you I think we may have even used this kind of analogy, you know, last year or something, but it's kind of like when you go through a bad breakup. Mm-hmm. You don't want to get into a relationship again because I just don't know if I want to get hurt again. I'm not saying this next person date's going to hurt me, but I just don't know that I can handle it. And so many triathletes went through that because when you invest in a race so much, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, and then it's gone. Right? It's either ripped away because they canceled the race, or you did it and you realize that, okay, maybe this race wasn't the end all be all, you know, medicine I needed for life. And I'm right back to square one. So many people just have kind of taken that and then now it's just kind of permeated their baseline level of commitment and motivation. And what's happening is which is, you know, how we are society now, instead of just kind of getting back to basics and understanding, hey, you know what, maybe I don't need to race this year. Maybe I can just plan for a year or two out. And what I need to know is that I just need to get back into getting in shape and getting fit and taking care of myself, my body, and my mind. That's the best thing you can do, is invest in yourself. It's actually one of the things that this guy on this podcast said is that, during economic, turbulence and market volatility and possible recession, one of the best things you can do is invest in yourself, right?
I keep
Be more
thinking about
fit,
that,
be
man.
more healthy, take care. Do what?
I keep thinking about that, man.
Yeah, it's like people don't do that, right? They want to do things that are different. Like, man, the best thing you can do is take care of yourself, because I think it gets so lost on us, myself included, that the person responsible for the resiliency and the ability to withstand, a recession, bad economic, life in general, your parenting, relationships, business, life, listening to things, that's you. That's you, right? The human being, that is you. And so if you're not doing things to invest in your ability to be fit and be healthy and resilient, then what are you doing? Right? What are you investing in? Well, what's important to you? Because you are that vessel that's either going to be frail and weak, and you're going to, drown and sink at the first sign of the easiest storm at sea, or you're going to batten down them hatches. You're going to strengthen things up. You're going to be smart, and you're going to be able to weather the storm. That's what you should be focusing on. And this is by far, not any kind of like an economic podcast, but I'm talking about life in general. Resilient people are resilient for a reason. It's because they've gone through things. They become callous. They know what to do. They know how to take care of themselves. Because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anything else. You can maybe disguise it and pretend like you can for but a minute, but you can't for any length of time, right? Because it's not going to last. You may be able to get away with it for, like I said, just a second. It's like I use the airplane analogy all the time. They're like, when you get on airplanes, which at least I'm not sure if they do this or not, because I've been flown in probably like 48 years, but at least when I used to fly, you're the same way. They used to say, when let's say there's a loss in cabin pressure, put the mask on yourself first, and then put the mask on the person next to you, because you can't help them if you're not breathing. And I think that's very, very true in just life in general, is that you got to take care of yourself. And if you can't make those decisions, right? And this all goes back to just common sense, responsibility, things that we just kind of get lost on. It's like, then what else? Then what are you doing for yourself? Because choosing to do one thing and not another is like, life is full of choices, right? And so we always joke about that with Hayden. He's like, we all make our own choices. And it's so true, because we're all making choices 24/7. We're saying, by saying no to one thing, we're saying yes to other things, or by saying yes to one thing, we're saying no to other things. And the best thing you can do at all times of life, right? And right now, the heat is stressful. I think summer is stressful. I think, this type of year is stressful, is to do things that take care of yourself. Right. And then if you're doing that, right, and you're doing it in a healthy manner, and you're being consistent in that, then maybe you can, spread your wings a little bit, right? Maybe I'm add a race here, add this here. But then the next question should always be, is this going to add stress? Is this going to add stress from my life, or, or remove stress? And the answer should almost always be remove stress.
Mm-hmm. But you got to face it too, like it's weird, because I think through the pandemic, when there was a lot of isolation and things like that, and now you're talking about people who are isolated, including everyone. And some people before that were a little bit gun shy about, going out there and doing stuff, because it's an anxiety feel, like, whatever. Because now I'm starting to think about all these concerts are back and everything's back, and the 4th of July festival and everything. And I don't know, for me, even, because I'm outgoing, but I'm like you, kind of like in smaller groups, I'm really good. And in the big groups, that kind of stresses me out. And then you start thinking all this stuff's coming back. People are going crazy out there, and it's wild. So there's a low level of anxiety there. And I just, because I'm still thinking about Wisconsin, right? And it's one of these things, and I love what you're saying about investing in your ability to be fit, because that, to me, it just takes away so many stresses, right? Like, if you can, and that's what happens sometimes. I discover the pool, maybe, or I discover mountain biking, or I finally get into the train, or whatever it may be, and you just kind of focus on that for a while, because then, especially right now with swimming, for me, is because it does translate into the other things. It kind of just brings together my fitness, and it is that oxygen mask thing, right? You start putting that on yourself, and you start feeling better, and you're awake and alive and ready to go. then I can be a better coach, you know, and because if I get caught up in all the stresses, which is easy to do with all the things, the moving parts and, you know, all the stuff we've been going through is the move and all these selling the business or the hub and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's lots of stuff going on, right? If you get caught up in that, then all of a sudden it's like you're the one that doesn't have the oxygen, and it's hard to take care of and you know, care about and reach out to take care of other people. So that makes so much sense to me, because that's all I'm doing is sort of turning inward with that, and then it kind of naturally goes outward when you're feeling better. So I guess what I'm getting at with the Wisconsin thing is I just don't know yet. You know, just like I think it's something I want to do, but I am really trying to, you know, go about it like it is a hot day and I'm out on a run, and I'm trying to just take it, you know, minute by minute here and just be cautious and go with what feels right. But, you know, I really do want to do it. It's just that I guess in some ways I'm just trying to, you know, it's not even about like saying, okay, I think I'm going to be fit enough. It's like, I'm trying to just get to the point where it's something that I really truly want to do without just saying I want to do it, you know, just as a spark.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I think we all deal with that a lot. It's sort of like you're saying about planning races out ahead. You know, it's kind of that thing that becomes the motivator, and that's what I don't want. I want my motivator to be like, man, I'm feeling good. This is something that makes me feel better when I do it.
Right. Do you want to keep continuing to repeat the same cycle?
No.
Over and over again? Or do you want to start and take more time and establish a new cycle? And I think that's something that so many athletes would be so much better off and happier by actually, like, you know, going back to the very beginning of this podcast, we talked about, you know, not knowing anything. It's okay to not know. It's okay to be so spun around like a 5-year-old kid swinging at a piñata that you don't have a damn clue what you want to do or if you're going to have time to do it, right? Like, when did that become not okay, right? You know, you always hear the phrase like, it's okay to be not okay. It's also okay to not have a flying fuck what you're going to do tomorrow, because you don't know what the world's going to give you today, and you're just trying to make it from one day to the next, right? And it could be a stress level, it could be working out, it could be training, because, you know, guys like you and I who are going through major life changes. You know, there was before I moved, I think I had like my best 6 to 8 weeks of training I'd had in years. Didn't miss a day. Since I moved. Major stress, total upheaval, happy as can be where we are in our decision, but it's total difference, right? It's totally different routine, totally different demands. You know, I didn't have a dog. Now I got a puppy, and I got a kid. I had a kid, you know, before I had a kid in school. Now I got a kid out of school. You got camps, you got things to go through. You got, you know, you think you're done with your house, but you're not. So you got to do something else. There's so much different, and it's so stress, right? And so you're one day seriously, I have this conversation internally every like maybe hour or so in my head. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do a half this year. You know, that close to Hayden, you know, not going back to school. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, yeah, I could probably do a full. I could probably squeeze in a full this year. Like, you go through I think every athlete goes through those emotions, but the number one thing is, you know, like Tony Dungy said about tweets, don't hit send. Just don't hit send. Like, for triathletes, it's don't click the register button, right? And I think that's also, like, you know, a great thing about races not selling out super quick right now is that you don't have to, right? Don't hit the send button. Don't hit the send button. Just wait, right? And just wait and wait and wait until you really, really know. Not that you think that you know, and most importantly, not because you just want to do it. Be reasonable, right? Make a good choice, because that's what's going to set you up for success, and you'll be able to enjoy training. And it's okay to not have something, you know, what you got on your radar right now. Like, it's don't you love how triathletes talk like they're, you know, air traffic controllers? They're like, so what's on your radar right now? Like, I don't know. I'm not sitting in front of a sonar or whatever thing they do looking at planes. I have no idea what's on my radar. I'm just trying to make it through the next day. I'm trying to make sure my puppy doesn't pee on the carpet. I'm trying to make sure my kid has some of a routine so I don't go insane. That's it. Welcome to my life. Like, that's what's on my radar right now. If I race later this year, I'll race. I'd like to, and I still plan to, but I don't know what's going to look like. I don't know how fast it'll be. I don't know how slow it'll be. I just know that today I ran, and I'm happy with that because that's more than I did yesterday. But I've had a good week. And my goal was honestly to with as stressful as these things have been, even though they've been great, even good stress is trying to find a routine is just like, what's going to help me be able to navigate and withstand stress? For me, that's a little bit of fitness, enough to make me feel good, but not enough to wreck me, and taking time to myself. And if I can do those things, then like you said, be a better spouse, be a better father, be a better coach, be a better person, checking boxes, right? And instead of dreading things and creating more stress, and then you got guilt and shame and all these things for not working out, and I'm like, dude, like it really is like, we could talk for hours and hours about why people will feel so guilty and ashamed and all these kind of feelings for not hitting a workout. Like, where is the root in that, right? It's like it's supposed to do this for fun, right? To get better and to feel more healthy. And if it's making you feel the opposite, then maybe you should go the opposite direction, and try to treat things differently. And so it's something that you always need to be reminded of. And I hope you've enjoyed our talk on open water swimming.
Exactly, man. Well, man,
it is which we're going to talk. We'll talk about it Monday. Yeah.
But that's funny though, like what you said about how you're like, do I want to do a half? I don't know if and then 20 minutes later, you're saying you think you could do a full, and it's just so the triad. It's like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people do this in general, but we just specifically relate it to triathlon because that's the way we think, and that's a big part of our thoughts, and it's in our brain all the time and stuff like that. But you go into Training Peaks, and like on Monday, I'll check maybe on a Wednesday, right? And then I'll go back and look at their Monday, and it was like the worst day ever, and they're thinking about giving everything up, and I'm like, oh shit, they're thinking about, I don't know, I almost went to the doctor or whatever, that kind of thing, and I'm like, oh shit, I missed a couple days here. Then I go on Wednesday, and it's like, I feel unbelievable. This is the best day I've ever had, and like what, it's so, I don't know, man. It's like I get it, and I think it all does come back to sort of doing what feels good to you. And I'm just such a stickler on this because, certain days, we will prescribe a week or two in advance or whatever. And maybe on a particular Thursday, there's a hard bike and somebody had a really tough couple days and they want to, go after that bike. And we're over and over. It's like, if you're tired or haven't slept or haven't eaten right or whatever, don't do it. Don't do it. And then it's the same thing. This is what yesterday when I went to the pool, I'm going to go swim 30 minutes. I've been doing 50s, on 15-second rounds. That's just sort of where I'm at right now. And it feels good. And I'm mixing up, efforts and doing all that sort of thing. But I got done and I was like, I feel pretty good right now. And then I just kept going and I put an extra 20 minutes in, but I was taking a little bit longer here and there. You know what I mean? Like this rigidity to the, and I suppose that when you grow up swimming, their coach is right there screaming at you, get going or whatever, it's like, that's 11 seconds, not 10. And it just was it's such a relief to be able to be like, to get, cause it's always in your head, right? It's like, I said a thing, 15 seconds rest. And if I, said hi to somebody or whatever, and I was looking at my lap button and it was like 27, the immediate thought is like, oh man, you're lazy, you're screwing up or whatever. But I got that out of my head and it was just like, I just kept swimming and it felt great. So that to me is the baseline for how we should train, because I ended up getting, 20 more minutes, and it felt awesome, but I didn't hold myself to my own, rules or whatever. It's like, what? Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you go out and try and do intervals, like we're going to the trace. We were talking about that. We're riding at the trace next week on the camp. And, you and I used to go out there and we'd have prescribed interval work on the trace. Mm-hmm. But man, sometimes prescribed interval work on long rides is difficult, especially when you got stop signs and, wherever your routes are and, who knows what's going to happen. But like, if you got a place like the trace, we just would ride up those hills like with like madmen, and they're just recovering. Mm-hmm. So how can that not be a great workout and it make you feel good, So be a little like, flexible. Find your sweet spots, man.
Yeah, definitely be flexible. And I think, I think one of the things that, and we can end it on this one, is that I think the trouble that we all get ourselves into is that we either want to be ready or we're not willing to do anything to get ready because we don't see ourselves getting really, like people have like, the most triathletes haven't, they're all in or all out. There's very few athletes are okay just kind of like doing their best. It's either all in or all out. And kind of what you were saying about, like you don't know, and it's okay to not know, but don't you want to be more ready when you do know? Because what oftentimes happens is we dig ourselves a hole of doing nothing because we know we can't do anything or we're not sure we want to. So then when we do want to be ready, we have a huge hole of fitness to dig out of. So wouldn't it be more enjoyable and a lot more, performance oriented to just kind of stay baseline ready, treading water ready? We're not asking you to swim across the, Pacific. Just be baseline ready, tread a little bit of water, be ready to rock and roll. And I think if you have that mentality of, I just need to kind of stay ready. This is my at the ready training. I'm not looking to go to race and battle out an Ironman right now, but I'm maybe baseline ready, because when I am ready and the life presents itself in a manner that I don't have as many obstacles, responsibility, or stress or things tugging at me, then I can go up and bump my hours up, and I'm not starting over. And I think that's a really hard thing for athletes to accept, is that, you can just train to stay fit and to stay healthy, and do things that, you need to do for your body. And I think that's what everyone should do, right? Is just kind of stay that base level. Because then when you're ready, you're going to rock and roll. You're going to be so much happier that you decided to stay in the game, right? Even if it's on the bench, you're at least on the team, and taking batting practice. You might not be in the game yet, but just keep swinging. And I think that's just an important thing to kind of keep you. Listen, I've been in the game for a long, long, long time, and I wouldn't be, I think, if I just, only went from swinging for the fences or, not being a part of the team and not trying to try out. And so I think it's an important time of year for that, especially with, ever-changing life stressors and things like that, is just to keep that base level, not just for your training and your racing, like I said, but, like we were saying earlier, but for your health, right? And for your overall ability to withstand the life stress that, you may or may not be having or that could come in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds great to me, man.
Be flexible. Be flexible. And we were really flexible in the fuck around today. And we promise a swim cast next week. Promise you. I may even have a little bit of an outline for. We'll talk about open water swimming next week, and some other sage pool advice for you. Maybe a little bit extension of our How Not So Good Swimming series, as we try to get into podcasts before we make our trip down to Hell, which will be Nashville, Tennessee, next week in the hundreds for our camp. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com, which is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for any help for the rest of the year in coaching, click on the coaches tab and peruse our roster of coaches and choose the one that's the best fit for you. As always, if you need anything from Mike, he is available, crushingiron@gmail.com. And if you need anything from me specifically, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, that's all I got.
I like that too, man. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, man. Sounds great. Thanks.
Safe.